Wizards of the Coast has released a video going over their plans for the transition to the 2024 editions of the Dungeons & Dragons core books. But how will the transition work? Is it really going to be that backward compatible with the 5th edition as we know it today? We'll explore all that in this video. I'm Dave, and this is the one and only RPG Rundown. Released in 2014, the 5th edition of D&D revolutionized the game, making it more accessible and more popular than ever. It resulted in a boom that feels even bigger than the mainstream success it enjoyed in the 80s, when there was a major network television cartoon based on the game. This year, we saw a successful D&D major motion picture, and this time, there's been no significant satanic panic to deal with.
Dungeons & Dragons. Satan's game.
Today, more than 50 million people are reported to be D&D players, so it's understandable that the game's publisher, Wizards of the Coast, doesn't want to do a completely new edition that would be a total reset of the game, as almost all previous editions have been. There would probably be a high risk of losing many of those 50 million players. Still, presumably it's hard to make money off of a tabletop role-playing game that has perhaps reached a saturation point of selling the core books to the game's players. Sure, they come out with new source books, but those aren't required to play the game like the core books are, in particular, the player's handbook. The 5th edition of the PHB has been around for close to 10 years now, and it's probably not really generating the kind of sales it used to. That may or may not have anything to do with the upcoming 2024 editions of these books, but even if it doesn't, it's natural to want to improve the game over time and occasionally give the core system another look to see what could be improved. Even that kind of buzz, including all the playtesting they've been doing, can drive awareness of the game and help sales of D&D products generally. But for whatever reason, the new editions are coming, and Wizards has pitched them as backward-compatible retoolings, which are optional. But as the revisions have been revealed and playtested through Unearthed Arcana, players have begun to wonder just how seamless all this is really going to be. In fact, the D&D Design Studio released a video this week on YouTube to try to reassure us about all this compatibility, revealing just a little bit about how this is going to work. A link to the full video is in the description below. In the video, the designers tell us that they now consider D&D a living thing, and that material will coexist seamlessly with existing 5e material. They tell us that the 2024 editions will be so compatible with 5e that players could even play two different versions of the same character class side by side in the same game. They compare this to, say, one player using the Warlock class from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and another player using the Warlock version from the player's handbook, while both of them comfortably play in the same adventure. Also, they tell us there won't be any separate conversion guide document we'll need to use to change existing characters to the 2020 versions of their classes. The changes we'll need to make will be right there spelled out in the 2024 Player's Handbook. They tell us, too, that we could still use creatures from, say, Monsters of the Multiverse with no problems in play, and that they have no plans to revise adventure books like Curse of Strahd. Everything, they say, should work just fine with no adaptations. As far as I can tell, their approach has been to do the most revising to player character-oriented things like classes and spells. And they've told us they aren't making any major changes to listings in the 2024 Monster Manual, other than adjusting them to better balance the challenge rating they are already supposed to have. In other words, the CRs for those monsters won't change, but the rules should better align them with that CR. If that's true, it makes me wonder why the entire monster manual needs such an update. Is it really the case that every single monster in it needed some fixing? Or if they're not significantly different, then what's the advantage in buying the new monster manual at all? I wonder too about the published adventures. Let's take the example of Curse of Strahd. Strahd von Serevich is the big bad from this adventure. He's a slightly modified version of the vampire Spellcaster from the monster manual with some added layer actions and other changes, but his CR is 15. That's the same as a standard vampire spellcasters. So if I run Curse of Strahd with players using the new PHB for their characters, and I use the new versions of standard monsters from the monster manual referenced from Curse of Strahd, will Strahd himself be unbalanced in some way? And if so, will I need to substitute the stats and abilities from the new monster manual for the vampire spellcaster and then add back in Strahd's unique abilities and differences? And again, the biggest question I have is, if not, then why do I need the 2024 revised core books? The reveal this week in the video was so small and lacked any kind of detailed examples about how any of this is really going to work that has left me wondering if Wizards can really pull off something like this. A backward compatible revision that you truly don't have to use, but that they feel you'll want to use. Time will tell, and I'll anxiously await all those details as they are revealed up until these new books are released. What do you think about the upcoming core book revisions? Are you optimistic? Pessimistic? Are you going to give them a try? Let me know in a comment below. And until next time, may all your 20s be natural.